Okay, the long-awaited chapter 25, 26 is here. Thank you, NIKKE community, for stopping by and checking out the reaction. We're going to be eating veggie hot dogs and some potato wedges during this video. Oh, wow, this is an hour long. Okay, I'm glad I got my food then. Okay. Shout out to Pyrex. Thank you for making this video. Let's go ahead and get started.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the series.
Oh, brother.
Before we begin,
It's going to be exciting.
as always, a big thanks to my channel members for their continued support.
You guys are awesome. Keep
With
throwing them
Rappy
dollars.
ascending to the surface alongside Dorothy and the heretics, the commander, under Ingrid's request, is ready to venture onward to retrieve her. Before he can do that though, he meets with Anderson, who's in a state that we've never seen before in the story. Instead of wearing his normal deputy chief
Hold on
uniform,
a second.
he is instead dressed in more casual attire.
The fan service is crazy.
More notably, he has a strange device attached to his side. He informs the commander that these are life support systems, and without it, he wouldn't last very long. Prior to the blood transfusion, he could be off the life support system for 2 hours, but now, he barely can make it 30 minutes. The recent invasion of the Ark had temporarily shut down power to select areas nearby, and Anderson's life support runs on that power source.
What a coincidence.
As a result, he needed to be rushed to immediate operation.
Damn.
But before that, he had a request for the commander. He tells the commander, in due time, he'll inform him on how he ended up in this sorry state. But before that, he wants the commander to reclaim the surface.
Okay,
This time,
reclaim the surface.
for good.
Okay.
With the optical camouflage provided by Eden, Anderson sees this as a vital point to even recapture a square meter of the surface. Morale is high with the recent defeat of the heretics. However, the Ark's invasion has also left it lacking in resources vital to humanity's survival. Not only this, the commander's recent victory will also stir discussion amidst the Ark's citizens. Why haven't we reclaimed the surface? What has the central government been doing all this time? Whispers will emerge regarding our current standing in the Ark, so the best move now would be to take action. It is in this conversation that a slight nod is given to previous reclamations, passing the torch to the commander to initiate the sparks for the next campaign to begin. This sequence with Anderson also reveals that his various meetings were most likely medical trips, all to ensure that he'd be stable while running on his life support system. As always, with more questions than answers, and the looming goal overhead, the commander bids Anderson farewell as he presses onward. Back at the outpost, he's greeted by Neon. After the horrific events that unfolded in chapter 24, the commander, rightfully so, is worried for her. Both Neon and Anise had been bisected, but Neon didn't seem fazed at all.
Huh?
Unfortunately,
how you get cut in half
the commander
and not care?
finds out very quickly the reason as to why. According to Neon's recount, she witnessed the entire battle with Rappy and Indivilia, all while doing her best to fight against Chatterbox and Nihilister. In her mind, she successfully fended them off, but of course the actual recount is far from that. Part of NIM's function is to sometimes alternate events that transpire to protect the user from traumatic experiences. According to Anise, this is what happened in Neon's case.
That's wild.
She has no recollection of dying.
That's awesome.
And for the most part,
in a way, and
the best move would be to play along with Neon's recount rather than confronting it. Hauntingly,
so she doesn't have
Anise
trauma.
also drops a subtle bomb on us here too, stating that she has already died multiple times, and she remembers everything.
Don't worry about me, Commander.
I've
already died several times before. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm used to it, but I've gotten to the point where I can endure it.
I mean, that's big. So there's this theory. It's probably not theory. It's probably real, just to get a little existential. So this thing is basically infinite death. It happens to us as well. So you know those near-death experiences that we have, like, oh, something almost hit me. Well, like in another dimension, basically, you did actually get hit and you did die. The thing is, by the time you died, like your consciousness shifted to another existence or another world, which is the reason why like you have this near death, like, oh, I almost died, but you did. So everybody else in that other existence, like a parallel world or parallel dimension, they did see you die. But where you are, like your consciousness, death is not there. So you can't really experience death in a way. People think, oh, when you die, you die. But for us, our consciousness is not a thing. So it's kind of crazy for Anise. Like, she remembers every time she did die. Right? So basically, the way that we experience death as human beings is the same way that, I don't remember her name. I'm not good with names, but the way she does it is the same way. Like, it's trauma, so it gets thrown out of our memory. But with Anise, she gets to remember it, which is absolutely terrifying, and definitely worse than if you were to forget, or maybe you die and you don't recognize it, or it doesn't, reconciliate that you had died. It's pretty interesting, man. I'm telling you, this game is amazing. It's deeper than you think.
So, hurry up. We have to find Rappy. Let's go.
As the scene transitions from the morbid realization with Neon, the commander finds himself ready to embark to retrieve Rappy. Under the guise of chasing after Dorothy, counters will do everything they can to bring Rappy back, by any means necessary. Ingrid had given the commander an injection gun meant for Red Hood to use in order to bring Rappy back. Due to the confidentiality of this mission, counters are unable to call anyone for backup or support. This mission is top secret, and especially after the invasion of the Ark, they have no spare resources to deploy.
Like 90% of the missions, bro.
The counters do get one form of backup from someone they never expect to lend a helping hand.
Look over there.
So
You'll be just as surprised.
That'd be the only surprise, bro. Oh my god! Called it.
What in the world?
Of course.
Told you.
Yeah. That'd be the only surprise, bro. I'm telling you.
Despite being injured, Siwon had arrived with an arsenal of resources to give the counters.
Oh, thank you.
A gesture of good faith.
Yeah, whatever.
All from Siwon's loving heart.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, I'm gonna drop the narration act. You're all familiar with this series, so you could probably smell the bullshit of that sentence from a mile away.
Absolutely.
Siwon says that this is just her providing support.
Well, okay.
But in reality, she's trying to play nice in order to get on Enix's good side. Enix passed judgment on Siwon and wanted to turn her into a NIKKE. Funnily enough, she'd be sent with the counters and be under the commander's orders if such an event occurs.
Fate worse than death,
However,
bro. That's
there
torture.
Is one exception. If she aids the counters and the commander is satisfied with it, Enix will waive her punishment.
Ooh.
Honestly, Siwon is pretty desperate to get out of this bind, and it feels pretty nice to have her be able to back the commander with the full might of Missilis. Agreeing to Siwon's aid, the commander decides to chat with Enix about this interesting turn of events. Funnily enough, Enix doesn't have jurisdiction to strip Siwon of her CEO title. If she did, it would spell disaster for the Ark by removing a CEO so suddenly.
Of course.
Basically,
Enix
formulated a ruling and punishment of things that she knows Siwon would detest the most, which, in this case, would be aiding the commander in counters. Enix is aware that Siwon will do anything she can to keep her title, and urges the commander to use her to his advantage. Only Enix and the commander are aware of this little stipulation in Siwon's punishment. So long as the commander doesn't slip, he can continue to use Siwon to aid him on his future missions. Interestingly, Enix also states that the commander is a countermeasure in Enix's new form of judgment. Should she do something too extreme, the commander is told to seek out Ink. Ink is the girl we see when fighting in the simulation room daily. Of course, with the new quick battle function, her already small appearance in the game is even further overshadowed.
Who is this?
More notably, you meet her during the events of the White Ice Dragon event, where she's the one controlling the fantasy world Guillotine and Maiden find themselves in. With this exchange of information, the commander returns.
What would you guys, as players, rate that event 1 through 10?
Turns to counters, ready to embark to the surface. Together, they decide to venture up near the escape elevator Rappy used at the end of chapter 24, hoping to find some answers there. 3 hours into their expedition, counters face a new obstacle. A minefield blocks their path, preventing them from advancing forward. Normally, an operator would solve this problem. However, due to the confidentiality of this mission, the counters had to rely on navigation using a map instead. Shifty is out of the question, and Exia is hung up on aiding Enix, leaving the counters to fend for themselves.
I miss Exia.
The reality of the situation is they're racing against the clock. Even if the situation is dangerous, counters need to press onwards, regardless of the danger they'll be facing. Time is something they don't have, and reinforcements are not coming. After disposing of a group of raptors, counters make their way to the escape elevator, only to find the entire area in ruin.
Oh no.
The entire landscape had either been torched or banged up. No sign of Rappy or the heretics can be seen. However, the group does encounter a familiar face. Dorothy.
Okay.
Dorothy had stayed back to wait for the counters, which seemed incredibly odd to them.
This doesn't sound good.
She's a pilgrim, and she definitely is strong. More so, she's a pilgrim from Eden. Dorothy informs the group that Rappy had essentially wiped the floor with the heretics and sent them packing.
Let's go, W.
The heretics retreated and Rappy gave chase. Due to Dorothy expelling a good deal of energy fighting alongside Rappy, she wasn't able to go along with her, thus leaving Dorothy to wait for the counters. The capabilities Rappy displayed also caused Dorothy to ponder on what Rappy exactly is. Dorothy was unable to fight at full capacity for long, but Rappy could do so seemingly unaffected. Instead of seeing them off, Dorothy instead insists to tag along with them. Though it's not the reinforcements counter had expected, they'd at least have a strong ally as they press onward to find their comrade. One thing doesn't seem to sit right with Anise. Dorothy's entire reason for appearing was to enter the Ark and temporarily conduct business inside of it. Aiding the counters in finding Rappy didn't seem like something that would be on her agenda.
It don't add up.
Dorothy does state that she's interested in finding Rappy due to her unique display. However, she quickly corrects herself, saying that the thing that intrigued her the most was a scarf that materialized when Rappy activated her secret body. If you'll recall, Chapter 17 had another member of Goddess also comment on the commonality between Rappy and Red Hood. Rapunzel stated that she reminded her of an old ally she fought with long ago.
Oh man, God bless the designers.
It just so happens that this transformation left behind more than just Red Hood's strength, but a part of her iconic outfit as well. This is what piqued Dorothy's interest, and what led her to wanting to find Rappy alongside counters. No one knows of Rappy's hidden power, and counters are entirely unaware of who Red Hood is, only adding the mystery of her secret body. Having wandered the surface for years before establishing Eden, and it being a near century since she fought alongside Red Hood, it's only fair that Dorothy's curious. The dead don't speak, but in this case, are still seemingly aiding in the fight from beyond the grave. Eventually, the group stops in their tracks. The scenery before them is nothing but scorched earth, meaning only one thing. Nihilister was extremely close to the group's location. Seeing that a looming danger may be before them, Dorothy suggests to use Neon and Anise as cannon fodder. To Dorothy, they're expendable due to the sheer difference in strength between them. Funnily enough, this is another sequence where instead of becoming infuriated by Dorothy, Anise and Neon play their normal antics on her.
Sorry to break it to you, but if there's anyone we could stand to lose,
I love it when Anise starts trolling.
You two. Us?
Get her, Anise.
Yes, you two are weaker than me.
Nah, she about to
There's
get
no
cooked.
denying that.
She about to get cooked, bro.
How come? Are you even listening to me? Us?
Us?
How come?
Who?
With the light banter aside, the group quickly stumbles upon Nihilister. Her body looks tattered and torn.
Yeah, I bet.
And surprisingly,
I'll be right back. I gotta
she
turn on the
survived
AC.
being devoured by Chatterbox and Indivilia. Nihilister taunts the commander to just put her out of her misery, sharply snapping back at him for recognizing her in this sorry state. Dorothy, on the other hand, has other plans for the fire dragon. She unloads a few rounds into her body, smugly stating that in her current state, she'll soon become food for any raptors nearby. Nihilister advised the group to either kill her or to piss off. If she's left alone, she may have a chance to live. That chance had been greatly reduced due to Dorothy's gun, and instead of giving Nihilister a quick death, Dorothy had another idea.
Oh, brother.
Nihilister was responsible for countless deaths on the surface,
Understandable.
incinerating NIKKE so there were nothing but molten metal. A quick death is a luxury,
For sure.
one that Nihilister wasn't worthy of.
Damn.
Dorothy, now having shot Nihilister a multitude of times, decides to unblock her colleagues from Eden, telling them she has a gift waiting for them at her current coordinates. She chooses to continue to leave her allies in the dark as to why she abandoned Eden for the Ark, chalking it all up to a personal matter. With Dorothy pressing onward, the commander, being the caring person that he is, covers Nihilister in a camo blanket, ensuring that she at least stays hidden until the members of Eden arrive.
Bro, I
As the group leaves Nihilister behind, she continues to fly obscenities at them, which quickly shift to pain laughter as her voice slowly begins to fade in the distance. While the group continues their search, we cut back briefly to the Ark, where Birmingham, Anderson, and Deputy Chief McChucklefuck are having a meeting discussing recent events. As always, Dobon is against the recent revelation of Suin aiding the commander hand and foot, saying that once people acquire power, it'll distort them. Really fucking rich coming from you,
You're the one
buddy?
to talk.
Sorry about that. I just get extremely tilted when I see this excuse of a commander on the screen. It's good to see both Anderson and Birmingham defend the commander here. Even if he is gaining power rapidly, they both know he won't do anything rash.
They're just hating.
Shifting the topic, Dobon has another astronomical idea. Simply the greatest suggestion in a time where the Ark is practically in shambles. Deputy McChucklefuck wants to go ahead and go toe-to-toe with Dorothy. What a brilliant idea.
Why?
Yes, everyone. Let's cut the alliance that we have with Eden, the group of people who have thrived on the surface to prove the Ark's might. Totally nothing will go wrong here.
What an idiot, bro.
Of course, Anderson and Birmingham are against this too, wanting to remain cordial with the Pilgrim, despite the existence of an ulterior motive. Even if they wanted to confront her, the Ark doesn't stand a chance against Eden. This puts the Ark on a completely new perspective.
You're on the back foot, bro.
Johan, Cecil, Inherit, and Dorothy are a real threat against the entire entity of the Ark.
Of course.
Agreeing to the shift in their plan, Dobon states that he'll go and dig for any relevant information on Dorothy and storms out. Interestingly, it is also revealed that the central government have been actively removing information on Goddess to avoid whispers of godlike entities.
Of course.
As we know from old tales, the second generation models have been wiped from the records, and now Goddess, besides the name, is the same. Curiously, Anderson also seems to be troubled by Dorothy's return, as if he's somewhat acquainted with her already. Cutting back to the commander encounters, Dorothy can't help but compliment the team on how far they've improved since she met them in Eden. Despite this compliment, this is Dorothy we're talking about, so praise can only come backhanded. She commented how Anise and Neon seemed to be sloppy in combat after engaging with a group of raptors.
Talking trash, bro.
Evidently, to Dorothy, it's clear that this is the case because they're used to having backup. This backup normally being Rappy. Dorothy continues pressing the group that comrades should be able to cover each other's weaknesses.
Absolutely.
However, in the case of counters, it appears as though Rappy is covering all bases to compensate for her teammates' shortcomings. Anise and Neon's retort doesn't exactly act to dismantle this point, listing off things about Rappy that they compensate for, none of which having to do with actively fighting against raptors on the surface. Dorothy continues her onslaught, and before the commander can stop her, she says her final point, that Anise and Neon are actively dragging the commander and Rappy down.
The disrespect.
Dorothy's seen firsthand what Rappy is capable of, and she's in full belief that the commander can lead his NIKKEs to the best of his ability. With this blow to Anise and Neon, Dorothy briskly continues forward, leaving them to contemplate. Both Anise and Neon acknowledge that Dorothy's words, although harsh, do hold some form of merit. Anise states that fighting isn't her forte, and she's aware that she'll begin to trail behind. Neon is the same, recognizing that her firepower seemed to have been lacking lately. Despite this, they feel that their squad is unique. Rappy have been with other reputable squads before, for example, Absolute, but it is only with counters that her full potential had been realized. This was a direct result of being alongside Anise, Neon, and the commander. Together, they allowed Rappy to warm up to them and fully unleash her abilities as their bond strengthened alongside each other. Even if Anise and Neon are lacking, the commander is confident that Rappy would never place the blame on them for it. Rappy's character isn't like that at all. Instead, Rappy has been with other reputable squads before, for example, Absolute, but it is only with counters that her full potential had been realized. This was a direct result of being alongside Anise, Neon, and the commander. Together, they allowed Rappy to warm up to them and fully unleash her abilities as their bond strengthened alongside each other. Even if Anise and Neon are lacking, the commander is confident that Rappy would never place the blame on them for it. Rappy's character isn't like that at all. Instead, She'd try everything she could to keep the team running together, rather than leaving them behind as she got stronger over time.
Of course.
Ironically, Dorothy's harsh words had reinstated how strong the counters are together.
They have a good bond.
Once they set up camp, and after the counter successfully sets up some decoys, the banter continues between the three. You could call it bonding of sorts, but with that snarky tone that Anise always loves hitting Dorothy with. Despite Dorothy hating the arc and anything in it, Neon still insists on Dorothy to try some Splendamin. Neon is also trying her best to include Dorothy in the group. However, with the context from Overzone, it's clear as why Dorothy rejects Neon's offer, still holding a grudge against the arc after all these years. It turns out, in this situation, Sewin actually came in to aid the counters here. In the pack that Sewin gave them, there's some items that Dorothy can eat. Although from the arc, it isn't the Splendamin that Dorothy so vehemently detests. After indulging in a chocolate bar, Dorothy can't help but recall her time spent with Goddess, sharing sweets and good times with all of them. Before she can relay it to the group, she stops herself, hurriedly splitting away under the guise of checking on the decoys. Pursuing Dorothy, the commander learns that she wants to topple the arc, which Dorothy finds extremely comical. She has to practically convince the commander that she's up to no good. Still, the commander doesn't feel that this is the case. Dorothy not only defended the arc, but also defeated a heretic that threatened Eden for a long time.
That doesn't mean we're friends, bro. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, so it don't matter. You're still an op, bro. You're an op.
The commander still wanted to thank her,
even though we're friends right now.
It was thanks to Dorothy that countless in the arc survived, and despite what she says, she's ultimately a key figure which prevented humanity's destruction. Shortly after, the group stumbles across a campfire. Up on the surface, this certainly is a peculiar sight. People don't just camp up on the surface, let alone survive. Not only would a fire be odd to find on the surface, but it would also actively attract raptures. Based on the tracks near the fire, Dorothy deduces that 3 people were here at one point. Quickly, the group denounces that Rappy could be behind this, though they're technically not wrong. Their thoughts are quickly halted by the sound of a rifle's gunfire.
They have a lot of hope.
Dorothy, seemingly perplexed, rushes ahead of the group, leaving Anise, Neon, and the commander behind. Although it isn't Rappy who's there currently, it is her body, technically, who was there when the fire started. We then transition to Red Hood, who is accompanied by 2 new NIKKEs, Chime and Crown. Both of these NIKKEs are pilgrims who reside in Crown's kingdom. Crown acts as the king of her domain, and Chime is her trusty right hand. This entire mishap with the fire was seemingly accidental, Chime heavily berating Red Hood for starting it. As it turns out, Crown may be a king, but she isn't that bright. Red Hood started the fire because Crown wanted to chow down on some roasted potatoes. Instead of stopping Red Hood, even knowing smoke would attract raptures, she sat there drooling, waiting for her food to be ready.
That's crazy.
Chime did eventually intervene, and the fire was put out. However, it was a little too late. Raptures did find them, but were no match for the trio.
Of course.
Instead of owning up for her own shortcomings, Crown instead states that she was testing both Red Hood and Chime. Red Hood for her ability in decision making, and Chime for her patience, which both of them evidently failed. A true king, I guess you could say.
Bro, no.
In reality, these two belong in the nut house, or as Red Hood would say, directly in the loony bin. In the distance, Red Hood can spot people approaching, but before Chime can instruct them to retreat, Dorothy recognizes her long-lost squad mate, a NIKKE who should have died long ago. Seeing Red Hood, Dorothy sprints forward, eager to reunite with Red Hood once more. Red Hood is overjoyed to see Dorothy, even commenting on how she's open to Red Hood's embrace.
Bro, that's crazy how
Dorothy, second-guessing herself, instantly asks for Red Hood's identity. She refuses to believe that this is Red Hood. So much time has passed, and Red Hood was long presumed dead, even though no body was technically recovered. Recognizing the scarf on Red Hood's neck, Anise asks if Red Hood knows Rappy. Red Hood counters his question with one of her own, asking how Anise and Neon are affiliated with her.
Who are you?
They inform her that they're Rappy's comrades, and the commander introduces himself alongside them. Red Hood struggles with stating what she is to Rappy. Mentor? Friend? Comrade? All these things apply to their relationship. Though she isn't physically there, Red Hood informs the group that Rappy is instead inside of her.
Oh. Pause.
Stupefied, the Counters and Dorothy have more questions about the sudden resurfacing of Red Hood.
So they change bodies.
For Dorothy, she's in complete disbelief that this could be her comrade, one whom many believe to have died during the time of the first invasion. For Anise and Neon, it's a struggle to understand exactly how this happened. Rappy had instructed the commander that after utilizing Red Hood's power, he'd have to find her. Even doing so, the Nikke before him isn't the one that he's seeking. Red Hood recounts that she and Rappy knew each other during the time of Red Hood's last days on the surface, directly recounting the events of Footsteps Walk Run. For those uninitiated, Rappy used to be a mass-produced Nikke who was an exceptional fighter on the surface, and eventually, she met with Red Hood by coincidence. They journeyed together for a few days before Red Hood finally died due to her corruption. Through their journey, Rappy found a sense of self-purpose, and through Red Hood, began to see the world in a different manner. Red Hood acted to shift Rappy's perspective in life, and also became the ideal that Rappy so desperately wanted to emulate. The fusing of their cores are also explained in this story too. After encountering an entity known as Deep, she tinkered with Red Hood, erasing her memory and all accounts of their meeting. Once Red Hood passed, she and Rappy became one, directly inheriting her predecessor's power.
Damn,
I highly encourage you to watch the full event if you have the time, and I'll link a full playthrough for you to head on over to before coming back to this summary. Crown and Chime act to explain what had occurred.
That's a very tempting offer to just derail or dissect this whole reaction. We go watch that video during this video and then come back and then continue this in another timeline for sure.
Prior to Red Hood's transformation. Just like Dorothy's recount, Rappy had wiped the floor with Chatterbox, Indivilia, and Nihilister.
Maybe another video.
After the heretics retreated, as we saw at the end of chapter 24, Rappy collapsed, turning into Red Hood. Dorothy explains that cases of personality changes are already rare to begin with, and in the case of Red Hood, this just seems impossible. A case of physical transformation equipped with new clothes and equipment seemed too far-fetched to be real.
For sure, that is kind of
Dorothy's
wild, right?
skepticism continues to bite at her, and it's only when
It's literally just like fusion in Dragon Ball. Like Goku, Vegeta fuse, and now they have a whole new outfit.
Red Hood refers to Dorothy by her old nickname that she finally begins to believe it's her. It would appear that Rappy is also repeatedly shouting the same phrase to Red Hood too. She wants Red Hood to go back home. This is a direct callback to Footsteps Walk Run as well.
Okay.
One of Red Hood's final dreams was to visit her hometown one last time. A dream that Red Hood abandoned to help Rappy achieve hers at the time. Pressing onward, the commander is contacted by Ingrid, who inquires about their current situation. Upon hearing that the commander had met Red Hood, Ingrid shifts to a private Elysian channel. Under an alias, she begins to disclose the full history of Rappy's secret body. Rappy's body is twice the weight of a normal Nikke's. As Ingrid explains, it's as if two bodies are stuffed into one. Rappy's body possessing two cores. No matter how many times Rappy's body is rebuilt, Red Hood always seems to manifest and resurface within Rappy once more.
That's kind of crazy.
I'll just take a moment to remind you all that a discarded Rappy body does exist on the surface. If you'll recall back to chapter 2 of Nikke's story, Rappy was decapitated,
Yeah, I remember that.
and the Counters made haste to get her head back to the Ark. This means that the manifestation of Red Hood's power could appear elsewhere if another head is attached. It is unclear if raptures can cause this to manifest, but learning this information is certainly unsettling, knowing that another scrap body exists on the surface.
So I'm a bit. So how does the core appear? Like, is the core like a physical manifestation that's inside the Nikke, or is it more like a metaphysical, like a spirit or something like that? Because if that's the case, like when Rappy lost her head in that body, did that core, like if you were to dissect that body of Rappy, would that core literally like dematerialize and rematerialize inside a new Rappy body? That's interesting.
Rappy's consciousness is the one in full control of her motor functions. However, when activating Red Hood, both she and Rappy fight for control. The longer her secret body is activated, the less and less control Rappy has over her actions. This is a prime example of the events that happened when fighting against Modernia. After the encounter, Anise and Nia needed to drench Rappy in coolant due to overheating. That fight nearly resulted in Rappy losing control of her body, stopping right before she completely lost herself. A toxin exists in Rappy's body that disintegrates Red Hood's presence with her own, thus resulting in the generation of high internal temperatures. Ingrid had tried every method under the sun to remove Red Hood's consciousness, but again and again it resurfaces, though dormant, until the secret body is activated. Ingrid continues by informing the commander that an instance of this nature had occurred once before, albeit in a much less severe state. Red Hood had fully taken control, but luckily remained unconscious. This gave Elysian researchers time to make a toxin to forcefully bring Rappy back. It's vital for them to bring Rappy back due to the strain that Red Hood puts on her body. The longer Red Hood stays in control, the more severe Rappy's memory loss is when she finally comes to. Despite this, Ingrid warns the commander that the same toxin he has won't be resisted by Red Hood, but by Rappy instead. The commander is also informed on Red Hood's ominous message to Rappy to destroy the Ark. Ingrid also grants him authority to disclose this information to the squad as well. The counters are highly unlikely to undergo a brain scan, and Ingrid feels this information may prove useful in their pursuit. She also states that this information is highly confidential and could turn the Ark on its head. After cutting communications, the commander ponders on the situation. Red Hood, a member of Goddess, the most renowned squad to ever fight on the surface, had re-emerged. Not only that, her existence also solidifies that methods exist to bring back long-forgotten NIKKEs to fight for humanity once more. Not only would the existence of Red Hood cause a massive stir in the Ark, but it will also lead to a deeper research into such resurrections,
people
something the commander doesn't wish to entertain whatsoever. Even with all the information Ingrid just relayed, one point is made clear. They still don't know why or how any of this is occurring, how it's even possible for one NIKKE to share two cores, let alone bring back the dead and let them walk again.
That's crazy,
Seeing no downside to relaying the information, the commander does just that. However, it's immediately met with skepticism once more from Dorothy. Funnily enough, Red Hood is the first one to believe the information relayed. Then there's Crown. And Chime.
Break it down for me. What exactly
Barney
is going
style.
on here?
But in Barney style.
Well, don't you worry about it. I'll take care of everything.
Very good. All I have to do is make the final decision.
Oh, brother.
Precisely.
Oh, brother.
Someone of your bearing shouldn't have to concern themselves with unnecessary details.
Oh, brother.
You two
Bro, those are like the most necessary of details.
haven't any clue what the commander just said, right?
Nope.
Whatever are you talking about? I don't need to understand.
I don't need to be educated.
Exactly.
I am too
All she needs
powerful.
to do is trust me.
Oh, brother. We know who's really
Dear
in charge,
God,
by the way.
these two are fucking idiots. Just as Ingrid had predicted, Red Hood wastes no time with instructing the commander to inject her with the serum. To Red Hood, she died long ago, and this wasn't a true resurrection. She was borrowing Rappy's body, and with each passing moment that she existed, Rappy's consciousness faded. Red Hood is content with her time being over. However, Dorothy isn't. Red Hood offers her arm to the commander to inject her. However, Red Hood's body reacts, grabbing the commander with vicious strength. This is what Ingrid was referring to, the fact that Rappy would be the one to prevent the commander from bringing her back. Using her other hand, Red Hood begins to strike the hand holding the commander to no avail. It's clear that Rappy wants Red Hood to return to her hometown above anything else. Despite being on borrowed time, Rappy is stubbornly insistent on Red Hood returning home. Of course, Anise is against this decision. Rappy is fading with each passing minute, and it doesn't make sense for her to be putting up this level of resistance. Attempting to reason with Anise, the commander raises a good point. Rappy wouldn't be leading them there without reason, especially if it means risking her own existence to do so. Though reluctant, the group eventually agrees to venture to Red Hood's hometown. There's only one slight issue blocking their path. Due to the years of deterioration and conflict with the Rapture since Red Hood's death, the terrain is unrecognizable. Even if they were to venture out, they have no idea the location of Red Hood's hometown. In a somewhat silly attempt, Red Hood tries to doodle a crude map of what she recalls her home looking like.
Okay,
but all it amounts to is poor chicken scratch to the counters and Dorothy.
Damn.
Surprisingly, even with the low
drawing
effort
skills
of the
aren't up, bro.
Chime recognizes the location and knows the path leading to it.
Okay.
After confirming the name of a pub Chime saw in the village with Red Hood, the group begins to set out together. It normally would take a week for a human to reach that location on foot, but seeing as they're pressed for time, the commander offers to cut the trip to 4 days. Though the trip won't be enjoyable for him, time is of the essence. Red Hood and Dorothy trail ahead of the group, with Counters, Crown, and Chime staying behind with the commander.
We need Dorothy so we can fly there.
Counters learned that Red Hood had run into Crown and Chime, and they'd offered to have her join their kingdom. Crown is the active king of said kingdom, and her squad, the White Knights,
the White Knights
gather all valuable resources to establish a flourishing kingdom on the surface. Since Red Hood was confused and lost, it only made her more prone to join these two.
Your Highness, this woman is claiming to be a spy.
Did you say pie? I could go for a good pie right about now.
Did you all hear that? Bring us a pie at once.
Oh, brother.
Oh my god. They're hopeless.
Oh, brother. It's gonna be a long trip.
These two pilgrims. Surprisingly, despite their dense exterior, they do harbor a unique ability. Crown and Chime have memorized various areas on the surface and can navigate to them freely, thus making finding Red Hood's hometown so much easier. Despite this seemingly being their first meeting, mention of the White Knights, Crown and Chime's squad, have been brought up before.
Somewhere safe. Don't worry. They may be money hungry and always pestering us to join them. But the White Knights would never betray their faith and besmirch their good name.
Ah, yes, the Knights. I was wondering who it was. Are they also pilgrims? Yes, 2 sisters, Crown and Chime, and cute as a button. They want to become the masters of the kingdom. If you vouch for them, I'm sure they're trustworthy.
For sure.
They're the ones Snow White had entrusted Marion to. And also through Marion, Crown and Chime have heard of Counters and the commander. They keep their account of Marion brief, but reassures the commander that she is okay. They can't disclose too much, as Chime puts it, because it may lead to the commander meeting Marion before she's ready to face him again. For those of you uninitiated, I highly advise you to pause this video here and watch through both Second Affection and Last Kingdom. They'll expand on this point and offer to give a nice look into the actual kingdom Crown is referring to, as Counters and White Knights continue their conversation.
Okay. So we'll pause it here and we'll check out that video some other time, and then we'll continue this. So yeah, okay. Since Pyrex went ahead and said that, yeah, let's end it here. We're 30 minutes in anyways. This is a really good couple chapters, and we got new characters and a new world, a new environment, and I have no idea about any of it. So yeah, I guess it would be better in general to just understand more of that aspect of the world building. So we're gonna pause it for here. I'll make that video in a couple days. I say a couple days, but it's probably gonna be tomorrow or something like that. Yeah, this was a cool video. Of course, thank you guys for requesting it, and thank you guys for checking out the reaction. Yeah, there's a lot of world building in here and a lot more cool stuff. I do like the details that we learned about Red Hood, and it's good that we actually get to see Red Hood now. You know, this is a character that's been like in the shadows, like who's Red Hood? What is Rappy's new power? And now we have a lot of context behind it. So that's cool. Definitely will check out more of this. Thank you guys in the NIKKE community for checking out the video. It's your boy KhunShawn, signing out. See you guys soon. I'll make that video of the White Knight Kingdom, and then we'll come back to this. Peace.